day here at the Nürburgring for round number 6 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland for 2021. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful Mr. Paul Smith for the duration of this broadcast as we head into the dying rounds of competition here. It's a very sunny day here at the Nürburgring. Track conditions looking very calm indeed. Maybe not as hot as we've seen at some other races so far this season. Maybe that's going to give the tire life situation a little bit of a boost for the drivers. But heading into this round, still so many untold stories here, Paul. Of course, we have that big old fight between Diogo Pinto and Maximilian Berneke for that championship win. Just a handful of points between the two of them. And of course, we've had a very recent development come from Diogo Pinto, haven't we?
Yeah, we certainly have. Diogo Pinto showing his colours finally and letting us know that he is actually a member of that Team Redline outfit, along with Max Berneke and a big chunk of this field. So I still don't expect them to give 10 tenths between each other, though. They'll still be fighting it out. There's no team's championship here. It's all about the individuals, and Diogo will want to win this still. Yeah,
I was about to ask you whether or not you thought that this maybe changes things with regards to the championship or not. Yes, we know, of course, it is not a team's championship. There's no constructors, team points, whatever you want to call them. It is still the head-to-heads between the drivers, and you alluded to the fact there, Paul, that you think probably not much will really change in this particular battle. I think they'll still give each other a pretty hard run. They've almost made bits of contact here and there in races previous. That might happen today despite being under the same banner.
Well, I mean, Diogo has alluded that he knew where he was going previously and didn't, obviously announce things. There's a process that has to go through. So I think he's been under that banner quite a while, just unofficially. And so I just don't think it'll change the racing between them. Diogo is an aggressive driver. He will make moves and make them quickly. Max, he's an aggressive driver himself, let's not forget, but he's a bit more tactical, a bit more let's wait and see what happens and take an opportunity when it comes up. Diogo seems to be an arrive and drive guy and really does give us some exciting racing, which has been tremendous all the way through this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. But, we're heading into the Nürburgring now, Paul. This has typically been, if you look at previous Porsche Carrera Esports Super Cup results, this has typically been a very, very strong track for Maximilian Berneke. So I get the feeling he'll have the edge here today if that trend is going to continue. Of course, Diogo Pinto actually qualifying in the time attacks a little bit further down than he is usually. I think he had a little bit of a panic towards the ends there that he wouldn't be able to set a time, but set a time he did. But I still think Berneke is going to come off at least the strongest here, at least if the early practice is to go by, if the time attacks are anything to go by. It seems like the form is there for Berneke up against what is his now new teammate.
Absolutely, and I mean, time is running out now. That you need to be making moves in this championship. We've got 3 rounds of the championship remaining here. Red Bull Ring back to back, 1 week after the other. So the Red Bull Ring is going to be intense, that's for sure. And then that final event, which well, Connery knows where we're going. I don't even know that. So yeah, it's certainly going to be a fantastic end to the season. But Max Berneke, you point it out quite rightly. He is a man who's very, 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 very versed around this track. It can be difficult to overtake at times around this circuit, but yeah, certainly Berneke, he'll be 1 eye up ahead.
There's the look at the championship standings as it is heading into today. Diogo Pinto 8 points clear of Maximilian Berneke. That is a very, very small margin in the grand scheme of things here. So that can just change very, very quickly as we head into the final couple of rounds of the season. You also got to pay attention to the championship lead battle, but you got to look at the battle for P3. That is the final prize-paying position here in this series. Currently, it's Christopher Dambeats in that 3rd place on the 328 points, but David Williams is not too far behind there on 311. So David Williams looking to get himself a decent bit of pocket change for finishing 3rd in the championship there, as his start to the season wasn't exactly ideal for the Quanta SimSport driver.
Yeah, you're touching it right there. He had a not the best of starts to the season, you would have to say. He was disappointed with his performances, but all the way through this championship, he's been growing more into this series and getting some really good, strong podium finishes in the last 2 rounds of the championship. So David is a one on the up here, and Christopher Dan Beats needs to be careful here. He needs a good week this week just to steady the ship, so to speak, and to really put himself in a good position to try and hold on to that 3rd place in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot to look at coming into this one, of course. You got a little other little scraps further down the order. You got one between Tiber and Ferreira, and you've also got Scrivens involved in the thick of things in there in that battle. So battle for P6, 7, 8 in the championship as well. Of course, no prizes for those positions, but a whole lot of glory, I would say, especially considering the usual strength of fields that we get here. If you're unfamiliar with iRacing, that's kind of like the average rating of the drivers coming into this. It tends to be very, very, very high. So even if you don't get any prizes for finishing 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever, you can still say that, you know, you're in one of the top competitions on iRacing, at least out of the countries that are eligible for this series. So that is something to be proud of.
Certainly is. I mean, at the moment in session, we're just short of 5,500 average iRating. That's an average, so you know, it is a strong field here. You know, they all compete week on week, doing the time attacks, getting themselves to qualify for each and every round. It's not a gimme, it's not a given, and so they have to be of a certain level anyway to start with, in search of actual pace, out of 1 lap pace. You've got to have that there. This is where now you see where that consistency comes. How good are people at being consistently quick? It's all well and good being quick on 1 lap. You've got to keep it going for the entirety of the race, though.
Yeah, you really do, especially in racing like this, where, you know, it's only technically a 30-minute sprint race. It's you know, both 2 30-minute sprint races as well. So the race is over pretty much almost before it's begun in some instances there. So you don't get a lot of chances to work your way back up through the field. Of course, you can recover from a bad result in race 1 to then come back in race number 2. We've seen that multiple times so far this season. But you don't, even if you get yourself in that situation, you don't actually have a reverse grid to help you. So if you're able to climb up to P10 or P8 or whatever the reverse grid mark is, you don't get that in this series. So it requires a lot of hard work if things do go wrong, at least early on in race number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And all it takes is a bad start, just a bad getaway, you know, get your clutch bite point wrong, and before you know it, you're a sitting duck on the grid whilst everybody else is going past you in a rather fast Porsche showroom, it looks like. But yeah, it's little mistakes like that can put you on the back foot, and it's only in the first 100 yards already of the race. You're then having to claw back, and fortunately for these drivers, they do get the 2 races. So if they can then claw back to a semi-decent position at the end of race 1, race 2, then they can have another go at going even further forward in that race. But it's not easy, not with the level of competition in this championship.
It's interesting you say about the race start here. They have been quite tumultuous at times over the course of this season, especially in the mid to rear of the pack. But here at the Nürburgring, that's going to be especially interesting because you have that tight hairpin of turn number 1. Then you have that sort of quick sequence of left-handers through the arena section that really does promote side-by-side racing, especially if you can hang it around the outside at 2 and 3 to then be able to give you the inside in towards turn number 4. It's a fantastic section of racetrack, and even those aren't the only overtaking opportunities at this racetrack. You can get a surprise move down into Dunlop if you're so inclined, and of course you have that run into the heavy braking zone of the NGK chicane at the very end of the lap as well. It's a fantastic circuit, Paul, and certainly one of my favorites.
It is certainly a challenge for these drivers, a bit more technical of a challenge as this one. You've not got the outright high speed of some of the other venues, but through this section here, this is going to be one of the key points of this race, and through this first section is your best overtaking spot, in my opinion. But you can also get the cut back and defend back. It's a really good opportunity to, as you say, have side-by-side fighting. Through 5 and 6, you're pretty much single line through there. You will see people going side by side on lap 1. Dunlop hairpin is a funny one. You can make a move down there, but it's got to be a bit of a lunge, really. down here. And then it's out on the power. Schumacher S is a one-line part of the circuit as well. But then the left-hander after Schumacher S, he can throw a move down the inside there, but it then compromises you through the right onto the back straight towards the NGK chicane, as you mentioned. So it's a race where it's a thinking driver's race in terms of where you make those moves and how you make them.
Yeah, and well, at least Beneke has done pretty well in that department so far in these events as well. Pinto has been similarly, if not more so, in the opportunistic realm over the past couple of races. Of course, you just have to remember back to the all these situations going on at Imola. Of course, Pinto getting those last lap passes done. Of course, one of those race wins was taken away from him due to a post-race penalty. But there he is in his new colours there, Paul, in that Porsche 24, driven by Redline car. Adds another one to the roster. There are a lot of Redline cars in this field and in this series, but you can always recognize Pinto due to those very garishly green wheels. Yeah, the
luminous green wheels. Yeah, I'm glad to see that they're staying on the car and that there hasn't been some sort of edict as to specific corporate colours in terms of, some teams would have that as listed as no, it is a requirement that you have to have these coloured wheels and you have to have this, you have to have that. Yeah, let him keep his coloured wheels. It's really the thing that helps. It helps us, if nothing else, be able to identify him compared to the rest of his team and his compatriots. So yeah, it's good that Diogo's finally got that announced and got that known. I mean, it won't have really affected him that much, but at least then it's just one less thing you have to worry about not accidentally announcing in an interview. So yeah, it's good to see him out there, and it's a tremendous outfit that he's got himself with as well.
Yeah, he's got himself. Well, his driver model in the sim has purple gloves as well. So quite a bit of a mismatch in terms of the colours on that car. But it's good to see Diogo finally find a home, especially considering how fantastic he has been over the course of this season. He was doing pretty good in the back end of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup for 2021 as well. So hopefully he can develop a little bit more as part of that team. There's a lot of experience in that team. You got, well, just for example, Maximilian Beneke, Alexander Tiber, Gianni Vecchio. You even got Max Verstappen, if you want to count him as part of that team. Maybe not full-time, but part-time, I suppose, with his other commitments, especially today. But for Pinto, practice going okay so far, though. About a tenth of a second behind Beneke, but of course there's a lot more variables to consider in practice compared to our single lap qualifying that we'll have in about 7.5 minutes' time.
Absolutely. Of course, Pinto, he did automatically qualify for next season's Porsche Carrera Cup Super Cup, so at least he doesn't have to worry about the Contender Series, which is coming up soon. So at least he can then focus solely on this championship. Some other people may have their eyes set elsewhere. I'm thinking of people like David Williams. He's going to be sort of thinking double duty, but at least there's one thing with him doing that Contender Series and this series, it's getting him plenty of seat time for David in this car, and it keeps him used to how it feels and how it drives.
Yeah, I think so. He does have that as a little bit of an upper hand compared to everyone else. Speaking of Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup drivers, though, there is David Williams, the lone sole representative of VRS Coanda Sim Sports here in this series. Of course, a fantastic team, that one. Lots of depth, a big depth of talent as well. They have a team house in Germany as well, where most of their drivers race from. There are a few drivers that still have to race from their own homes, but they've got a lot of structure behind that team now, and it seems like they do go from strength to strength. Especially with Joshua Rogers sort of at the helm as their star iRacing driver, for example. But of course, they're trying to expand into other things as well, which is good to see for them, because you want these teams to stick around for a good while and not be flash in the pans.
Absolutely, and he's a very, very good driver in this car. He knows how to race it. As I said at the start of the broadcast, he's really been coming into this series. Took a little while to get the feelers in, but once he he's got up to speed with the series. He's really been able to pick it up and go. So yeah, definitely he's been looking good. But of course, I mentioned it earlier, Connery, everybody has to do the time attack, so it means that we get fresh faces in the series as well.
We do. We do have a handful of new drivers that qualified. So of course, not everyone took the invite up in this situation. But there's Eike Weinberg for Mechanic Racing, who's a newcomer to the series. We have a couple of other drivers further down the field as well. Rogaira also making his first appearance. Vanta Hiruk as well. Timo Winter. So I don't know if Sebastian Limholm has been able to make it into the session. I don't see him on the timing tower. But yeah, a good handful of new drivers getting into their first race. Of course, there's not all that much to race for them, considering they'd be so far behind in the championship. It's mathematically impossible for them to make much of an impact. But it's like we were saying about the rookies last time, Paul, it's all about the experience out there now to getting to race with some of these very, very quick Porsche World Championship drivers in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and you don't improve unless you sort of pit yourself against the best. You know, it's all well and good being the king of one sort of series that has a level of competition, but not as high a competition as this. You want to be testing yourself against the best. And when you've got Beneker, Pinto, Dan Beats out there as competition and as sort of markers really for those newer drivers to come in, then that's definitely good for them to have that sort of target really, to look ahead. I mean, this is another man who we saw last time out, Martin Siratek for race gear. He didn't have the best of times, it's safe to say, last time out, but he's back. He'll be hungry to try and get that improvement and try and move up in the standings and with how his racing went.
Of course, remember, if you're able to break into the top 32 in terms of the point standings after the end of the second to last round, so before the start of the final round, you will be able to get your invite into that final round. There will be no time attack qualifying procedure for that final round, so only the top 32 in points will be invited to that race. And of course, if any drivers inside that top 32 can't make it, then of course we will extend it down to P33, 34, however far down we need to go to be able to get ourselves a full starting grid for that final race. But for a lot of these drivers, getting into that final race, probably the task to go for at the moment. The driver that's currently 32nd in point standings right now is Keanu Bushman, who is not a part of this race. So if you're those guys behind him, well, you have a lot to gain here if you get a good result.
Exactly, yeah, and you might as well go for it. Get yourself into a championship finale is certainly an opportunity. Patrick Shilakovsky at the wheel, going down towards the Dunlop hairpin, and he's another one of our newer drivers who we've not seen much of so far. And well, he's got himself out there. He's doing laps. He's fresh out the pit, so he's not set a lap time yet. So he probably won't set a lap time really at this rate in practice. So he'll have to leave it all on the line to qualifying. And this is where me personally, how I like to race, is if as soon as the race session goes live, I'm there in the session. I want to get out there on track, see how the car feels in the conditions, and then see, right, how can I adjust my driving? How, have my braking points changed slightly because it's slightly colder or slightly hotter than I've been practicing? So yeah, this warm-up session that these drivers have before these sessions are actually crucial to get their eye in for qualifying and then the race.
Yeah, you got to figure out those track conditions. Of course, these all these cars do have that fixed setup, so you're not able to change anything regarding the car to be able to deal with the weather a little bit better. Everyone has the same thing. Of course, you can change the brake biases. Yeah, you can change the brake biases and some such, but no major changes, I would say, to be able to deal with the conditions. So no spring changes, no wing changes, nothing like that. So it's just what you can do with the brake bias. And well, let's see how these drivers have been able to adapt then, because we've got 30 seconds left remaining in this practice session. After this is done, we'll head into a qualifying session, which will be solo qualifying, so everyone is all out there on their own with no one else to impede or help them. They'll have 3 flying laps, 3 times laps to get themselves their slot on the starting grid for race number 1. That will be a 30-minute event. We'll have a bit of a break, and then we'll have race number 2, starting grid based on the results of race number 1 without any penalties applied. So practice is over. Qualifying is just about to begin. And this is going to be pretty crucial as far as early track position in race number 1.
Certainly is, and it's not impossible to overtake here, but it certainly is difficult. And these drivers will find that out if they do make a mistake in qualifying. But it looks tremendous. Nürburgring always looks good, and it's great to have you all along with us for what should be a tremendous couple of races here.
I'm looking forward to it. Drivers already out there now in qualifying. There is the number 70 Team Red Line machine. That is Gianni Vecchio out there getting his laps in. Vecchio, of course, sitting 5th place in the championship at the moment, just behind, well, a healthy amount of points behind David Williams, but and then a healthy amount of points ahead of Dylan Scrivens as well. So he's found himself in a little bit of no man's land as far as the championship is concerned, but I guess that's kind of a good thing that you don't have any pressure from behind, but a bad thing that you don't really have too much of an opportunity to go chasing for those points a little bit further up, or those positions a little bit further up, unless those drivers have a couple of problems.
Yeah, it's a little bit discouraging when you find yourself in that little bit of a no man's land, and you've just got to then rely on your mental energy and keeping everything in check in terms of being able to really focus and keep pushing. It's so difficult if you're out there on your own or in a race, or if you're on your own in a championship and there's nobody really around you for you to fight. You can just take your foot off the gas just a little bit and become complacent a little bit. You can't afford to do that in something like this. You've really got to push on and to give it everything. And certainly, Gianni Vecchio, I mean, he didn't even set a time in the warm-up session, so he is going to be really giving this some and hopefully getting himself up to the front of the field here. And in fact, let's take on board lap then. Through the final corner, take that wide line in to get the best run out of the corner, carry the speed across the line, keep it over to the left-hand side as we're heading down here. Pit exit marker, the pit lane exit marker is usually a good marker for your braking. Down the gears you go, tight hairpin. Some people keep it left, get it over to the right a little bit, Vecchio, to open up this second corner, let it run out wide, keep it on the right hand side, brake nice and early, get the front end tight in to this hairpin, then straight away it opens up this right hand hairpin here. Don't run too far wide or you'll get yourself an invalidated lap. And now down to turn 5. I think he's backing off of this one. I think he's got himself an off track. Yeah, he's backing off of this one. He's abandoned it. So look at that, Connery, how difficult it is to keep yourself out of trouble when you're pushing it out of that first arena section.
Yeah, it is very, very tricky indeed. And, well, Vecchio, knowing that he'd already lost a little bit of time coming through there, so thought, well, not really worth going and chasing over the rest of this lap. He's also trying to keep his tyres in good condition as well, so that he doesn't have to come back onto the pit lane, get us fresh to the tyres, and then get back out there. Just saving a little bit of time in that regard as well. There is Maximilian Bernecker just preparing for his lap as he warms up the brakes into the Dunlop curve, and now up through the Michael Schumacher-esque he will come. A couple of drivers still out there, still yet to set themselves laps, by the way. That's not why you're not seeing any times on the left-hand side. Drivers taking their time a little bit to get those lap times in, at least the first flurry. But here's Simon Amosa then. He's on his way up into the NGK chicane here. Hop over those curbs there, and careful with the slide out, Amosa. Maybe a little bit of lost time there, but now into the Coca-Cola curve to finish his lap.
Certainly is. Looking to get himself a good time. I think we're going to see Diogo Pinto go to the top of the I have a funny feeling if his lap is valid, it's not. It is valid. He's at the top of the timing. There you go, fastest lap at the top of your screen. And he's leading Scrivens and Moza, well, down to fourth now because Denela into third. Quite notable, there's a lot of drivers who have yet to get a lap time in the books here, including this man, Max Benneker.
So yeah, here comes Max Benneker as he's going to come across the line to start his lap now. We saw his preparation that he was doing for this lap, so hopefully those tires are in the right place now on this flying lap for the driver of the number 11 car at the moment. Of course, he had to abandon his first lap, and a lockup there, slight lockup of the inside right front is not going to help him through turn number 1 there. Missed the apex a little bit, but tightened it up by turn 2. Now in towards turn number 3 as he continues to get that car slowed down. But it was a mistake early on in the lap there for Max, Paul, that is not going to help him.
It's certainly not, and that won't help either if he gets himself an invalidated lap. I can tell you, Gianni Vecchio's on a good time at the moment, but Max, I do believe he's set a personal best, in fact, a overall best first sector time. Down towards the Dunlop hairpin then. Keep it up to the left-hand side. Get your braking right. That tarmac on the left-hand side is a good marker usually on the brakes. Through the Dunlop hairpin. You can V that off. Give yourself the run out of the corner. Up over the curbs and then up over the curbs to the Schumacher S. Fourth gear, hold it in fourth. Quickly up to fifth gear then. He's using all the curbs and then some. This is impressive to see. He's on the limit, and I'll tell you what, he's setting purple sector times on my timing screen right now. Through the right-hander then, let it run out, use the curb and then some. Up through the gears, up to sixth gear. Try and use as little steering input as possible through that kink. Keep it up to the right-hand side. Brake hard just before the 100-meter board. We're on the tight Grand Prix version of the NGK chicane. Up over the curbs, you absolutely mount those. Keep it over this curb here to widen this entry as much as possible on the power once again. What's his time going to be, Connery?
Well, it is a 1:57.319 to beat. It's a 1:57.116 for Maximilian Benneker. He goes 0.2 of a second faster than Diogo Pinto's first effort. Pinto, he came across the line just behind Maximilian Benneker, though, but that time was not valid. Pinto has another lap to go chasing for this one here, but so does Benneker, although Benneker did take the toe back to pit lane, so he's not going to be able to get out.
Yeah, I think that's Benneker done, yeah, because he had to abandon that first lap. That's his qualifying done then. And, well, Scrivens finds himself in a good 5th place at the moment. Only 9/10 off of pole position. So it's good to see him up there. He's been getting involved in a few instances in the early stages of races as Dylan. But we've seen throughout this championship he's been competing, he can really scrap and fight for those positions, and Pinto is back in the pits. His qualifying is done.
Yeah, so that's the top couple positions set. What can Dylan Scrivens do, though, from 5th place? Currently, quite a bit of time to gain, though, to try and improve positions anywhere near those top handful of cars at the moment. Benneker class of the field for the moment. But for Scrivens, he is one of 2 drivers that had gotten themselves a penalty when you go over your amount of allotted penalty points on your license. 6 points gets you a back of the grid start for the next event. It was himself and Andrea Alberti that did that at the same event. But he's kept himself clean ever since that. I don't think he's had any more additional penalty points added since that penalty. But now Dylan Scrivens across the line. P6, though, so someone did jump him up into the top couple positions there. It
was David Williams. The pressure was really on David then because he hadn't set a lap time at all, and he's just come across the line and set that 1:57.806. So he was under serious pressure then because he wouldn't have been able to have done a final lap with the amount of time remaining. Of course, in this qualifying session, once that clock strikes 0, that is it. You do not get to finish your lap. As Volkovic, 7th place, had a good showing here so far.
Yeah, great stuff from the driver, the number 21. You got Danela out there going slowly, so it looks like he's abandoned the lap there, so won't be able to get one in before the end. Like you quite rightfully said, Paul, system works a little bit differently here because we do have heat racing enabled in this server, so therefore once the qualifying timer expires, that will be it. You will not get yourself a chance to complete your lap there. So that's the situation that the drivers will just have to deal with. But now in towards the NGK chicane for the driver of the number 96 car, Danela. Of course, we saw him back off of this lap, so it's not going to be too competitive, this one. I think our grid is pretty much set at this point. I'm seeing David Williams come towards the end of his lap 2 at the moment, but he's not going to be able to get to the line in time, I wouldn't have thought. Although it looks like Laubish was able to get himself inside the top 10 there, just at the very dying moment. So a couple of changes in the very latter part of the session. But race number 1 grid has been set here at the Nürburgring for round number 6 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland. Race number 1 grid looks a little bit like this. Maximilian Benecke will be on pole position today with Diogo Pinto, his championship rival and now new teammate, on that front row as well. It's an all-red line P1 through 4 with Christopher Dambeats and Gianni Vecchio on row number 2. David Williams starts on the inside of row 3 with Dylan Scrivens in that 6th place. Adam Volkovic in P7 today with Lucas Lippert starting in 8th, and Nicholas Denela in P9 with Nicholas Laubish starting in 10th. Ricardo Ferreira starts in 11th with Simon Amosa in 12th, and then Gal Valero in P13. Daniel Moose starts 14th with Igor Kos in 15th. Lucas Lang on the outside of row number 8 there in P number 16. Martin Siratek in 17th, and Eike Weinberg, one of our new rookies to the series, starts in 18th. Bert Vangela, one of the new rookies as well, and it's all rookie row number 10 with Schiller Witkowski making his first appearance there as well. Philip van der Herk in P21 with Timo Winter in P22. Albano Mora in P23 with Rogaira in 24th. That is going to be the top to bottom of your starting grid here today. Everyone was able to set themselves a time, so no dramas for anyone really in qualifying. So everyone perhaps where they should be in terms of track position. But we are just moments away from getting race number 1 underway here, Paul. And, well, it's quite a run down in towards turn number 1 where a lot of action can happen.
Yeah, be careful of your start. Don't go and slip the clutch too much. But these drivers are all set for this first race.
Race number 1 here at the Nürburgring for the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland. Round number 6 gets underway. The Porsches launched down in towards turn number 1, but there's someone in the pit wall already. It was a Urano Esports car that was slow off the line that caused all of that. I think that was Dylan Scrivens, but look at this scrap for P1 down in towards turn number 1. Pinto on the inside looking to get the race lead away as he's not quite clear in towards turn number 2. Benecke is able to come back at him on the inside, side by side behind between Dambeats and Vecchio as well, but the race lead is still all up for grabs here as Benecke slides up across the nose of Pinto. Pinto dips back underneath and he gets the race lead away.
That was heart-in-mouth moment for Benecke then. Absolutely only just able to hold on to the control of the car. He's having to block off David Williams and Gianni Vecchio, who rub door panels, but Benecke down to 3rd place in all of this. Dambeats up to 2nd, but again, aggressive start from Pinto, and it was Lucas Lippert, who was the one in the wall at the start of the race trying to avoid Dylan Scrivens.
Yeah, that's the, well, sometimes some drivers have major problems with getting this car off of that starting grid. The clutch model, really very tricky in these cars. Really difficult to try and get yourself a consistent start. You know, you got to make sure you don't overheat the clutch, trying to hold it in the right place and then try to launch that way, like you could do before those clutch changes. But now you just have to get it right off the get-go, and sometimes you get punished if you don't get it right. Meanwhile, battle a little bit further back though, coming towards the end of the first lap here. Lucas Lang versus Igor Kos further down the field here as they're all trying to sort each other out. These guys still going side by side up in towards the chicane here as Lucas Lang going down the inside here. Everyone's a little bit too hot in the back there. Puffs of brake smoke into the chicane, but everyone's able to tiptoe their way through apart from Van der Herk.
It's such a tight chicane is that one. And yeah, Van Herk having to just lose control of it. He's got back up underway, almost going 3 wide further down here. This is tremendous to watch here as we're on board with Reguera. In towards turn number 1. We're going to go 3 wide here, Connery, and that is a lunge and a half.
That's a big lunge, but it's something you can do. Into turn number 1, there was a slow car on the inside there. Igor Koss, it seems that has had a bit of a problem in the early goings here. Reguera still involved in the thick of things. He's got Lucas Lippert diving down this inside now through the arena section, but Lippert will be able to carry the momentum around the outside of turn 4, and he's able to gain that position. I have to wonder what happened to Koss, though, because he was very slow on the inside of turn 2 there.
It looked like a slowdown.
Yeah, it did. You had to try and get out of the way.
You could pick up a slowdown penalty if you cut across the inside of the turn 1 hairpin too much. So that could possibly it up. So definitely can affect you that way. Lippert, though, doing the recovery drive and having to make some moves. We talked about this, didn't we, Connery? You get a bad start and it just puts the rest of your afternoon on hold. So you have to just work your way through this field.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get another little look at how that start worked out. I just wanted to see what sorts of troubles Scrivens had trying to get across the line. And of course, it was Lippert behind him that just had to wrench the wheel to the right, just trying to avoid it. But that just kind of sent him into the pit wall instead, which caused that a little bit of a chaotic moment on the start. I don't think too many other people got caught up in this one, but here's the replay of the start then. You can see Scrivens not getting away well, and Lippert, the first one on the scene, tries to move out of the way. He gets himself a bit of wheel spin as he floors the throttle as well. Certainly doesn't help with regards to try and get out of the way of that one. Thankfully, no one else got caught up behind, because it's not usually the first car immediately behind a slow starting car that has a problem. It's usually the 1, 2, or even 3 rows back that sort of sees it late.
Yeah, there's that instant then for the 69 of Furtwängler. But yeah, it's usually not that car directly behind. You're absolutely right there, Connery. It's usually the one behind them, because they're late-sighted and they're going at a higher rate of knots. But, you know, wheel spin at the start, suddenly having to wrench your wheel right and not adjusting your application of the throttle, there's only one ending, and that's in the pit wall.
This gaggle of cars here. This is crazy stuff with Max Furtwängler. You got Igor Koss, who's on that recovery after the slowdown penalty. We have a car on the gravel. Martin Ciracek has had a very big problem there. Seems like a solo car incident, at least it looks like to me, on the way in towards turn 5. Let's see what happens with Martin Ciracek. Well, this is the live pictures at the moment with his onboard. Well, looking focused still, despite the incident.
Yeah, you can't let that affect your judgment, and you can't let your emotions take over. You know, if you race angry and you're very snappy with people, say if you've got a race engineer who's trying to be calm with you and you tell them to shut up, then, you know, maybe, and yeah, there you go. Just a wheel onto the grass, onto the entry of turn 5. That's only going to end one way, and that's facing backwards into a gravel trap. Fortunately, able to keep it out the wall and keep it going there, but yeah, definitely not the best of time. And I said that he hadn't had the best of times last time out at Ciracek, and it's just gone to show again as Scrivens making moves.
Yeah, Scrivens, of course, after that absolutely horrible start, looking to try and get his way through on now Ricardo Ferreira. That's to try and break inside of that top 10 once again. Scrivens, he started in P6, but of course had those issues on the start. Now diving down the inside, outbreaks himself a little bit. Ferreira looking for the cut back underneath, but not going to be successful that time into turn 2. He's going to take the big wide out through the corner, try and find a bit of speed off, but his run is stalled somewhat coming into turn 3. Side by side ahead of these guys, though. Denela and Amosa are going wheel to wheel through turn number 4. That's the battle for 8th place in front of them, and well, Amosa gets the speed off the corner, but they got a bit close between the two.
It certainly did, but it shows how that arena section, you can go side by side. But all of that fighting has allowed Scrivens to catch up to the back of them. So we've got a train of 4 cars here. Call it 5 with Gal Valero being behind them as well. So Yeah, this is tremendous battling in the bottom half of your top 10. By the way, Max Benneker has moved back up into second place whilst we've been focused on the back in your field.
Yeah, that was a pass done over Christopher Dambeats there. So Dambeats not fighting that one too much, I didn't think either. Just knowing that's the grand scheme of the championship is, well, going to be preferring Maximilian Benneker at this point. Even though Dambeats is in his own battle, remember, he's fighting with David Williams for third place in the championship, which is the last prize-paying position here in this one. So he would have had a good excuse not to let Benneker go there.
Certainly would. I mean, he's still got Gianni Vecchio between himself and David Williams at the moment. You look at how the cars concertina together there, under braking into the NGK chicane. Scrivens is looking to make a move into the final corner, and do you know what? This turn 15 seems to be a really favourite spot for Scrivens to start that move, and he finishes it down into turn 1.
Is he able to finish it this time, though, as Denala just getting a little bit more speed on the way down in towards that first turn, but Scrivens has the positioning to be able to go deep down the inside, and he's got the pass done, and now Denala comes under threat from Ferreira, who's looking the long way around at turn 2, again trying to line up the run off the corner, but that's the second time in the road that hasn't quite worked out for Ferreira. He'll dive down the inside with a big look, but not going to find any success there either. I see what Ferreira's trying to do there, just hasn't quite timed it right in the last 2 times he's attempted it.
Yeah, but if you're that car ahead trying to hold on to that position like Denala, you can actually park the car on the apex there, just go a little bit slower to make sure you get the tighter exit off of that turn 2 with the other car trying to get the up and under. And it just stops that from happening. And I think that's what happened right there. Ferreira was just trying to get that cut under, and Denala recognised that, just leaned on the brakes just a little bit, just to help that car stay on the apex, and that just shut the door, didn't let Ferreira make that cut under.
Yeah, so you pin yourself to the inside there, make sure that there is no opportunity for that car behind to use the speed gained by that big wide arc to try and slingshot through. We're riding on board with Ricardo Ferreira in the very pink Arnage competition number 13 Porsche. Bit of traffic ahead of him, of course. You know, we saw him battling with Denala, but Scrivens is ahead of this. Same with the most, same with Volkovic. So they're kind of all counted inside the same train here, as we've had 10 minutes gone, 20 minutes to go here in race number 1. If you're not aware, of course, we are still using the older Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. That's because, well, we started this season using this version of the Porsche 911 Cup car. It would be a little bit unfair to force the drivers all to use the new Porsche 911 992 variant Cup car. I guess if there is a next season of this one, well, we'll be using that car. But for now, it's the old 911 Cup car. But of course, you can now get the new 992 variant here on iRacing, and well, apparently, I've heard that it's very nice to drive.
Absolutely, but what a send-off it'll be for this old car, won't it? You know, give it a tremendous send-off. Speaking of tremendous send-offs, almost going 3 wide through the exit of turn 1 there. That's the battle between Winter van den Herk and Igor Kos and Martin Siratek at the back of that one as well. So they're just scrapping it out over those lower positions. Just because they're fighting for those lower positions doesn't make the fighting any less intense.
Yeah, it is. And, well, these guys are having maybe a little bit of fun back here, just scrapping amongst themselves. That's certainly the attitude I would take to it, especially if I'm not in the championship, well, in for anything with regards to championship, either those top 3 positions or trying to get into the top 32 to be in that final race. Of course, location still undisclosed for the moment, and we're going to have a little bit of a bigger show for that final race as well, Paul. I know you don't know anything about that, but information will come in due course.
It's nice that the broadcast gets told before I do, but what a move, what a run through the Schumacher S here. That's a tremendous one, and I think there was a slowdown penalty possibly for Kos. Certainly had an issue there, but Siratek had a great run through the Schumacher S.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, and well, just completely caught his competitor off guard there, and well, that all happened rather quickly, didn't it? Here, coming up to halfway point in this race now, a couple of minutes away from that. if you're wondering why we're focusing on the battles in the middle and the back of the pack at the moment, well, the front has been relatively quiet for the moment. It's been a very consistent 6-7 tenths of a second between Pinto and Beneke since Pinto was able to try and get past Beneke, and Beneke has been able to get past Zambeats a little bit earlier on. So we'll see how that develops in the final half of this race, whether or not Beneke can get any closer to Pinto, because that would be so important as far as championship is concerned. Pinto leads by 8 points at the moment and is extending that right now.
Certainly does. There you see that lead train, and there's a lot of orange, white, and black at the front there, but there's a purple, white, and orange car at the back of them, and well, orange seems to be the colour of winners at the moment, it appears, in the world of motorsport, even in sim racing. Still that battle ongoing on the left-hand side of your screen, and Winter and Van den Hurk. Of course, Van den Hurk had that incident on lap 1 at the NGK chicane, finds himself ahead of the driver of Timo Winter.
Yeah, so up into P20 now. So for Philip van der Hurk, he's back. Well, he's now ahead of where he started. Started in P21, now in P20. Winter still ahead of where he started. He started P22. He's now in P21. Circuit, of course, we saw have a few problems earlier on in the event, out into the gravel at turn number 10, I believe, or was it turn number 5? I can't remember which one it was, but either way, one of those, he had those big problems there, and has now dropped all the way back through the field. He started P17, now in 22nd. Still time left in this race for him to try and work his way through the field, though, so I wouldn't say it's race done just yet for Circuit. Still has positions on the cards a little bit further down the road, but yeah, let's see what happens here, because we've seen a bit of chaotic fighting so far.
Our race stewards have been kept busy, by the way. There's a warning for the man in last place, Vert Vangler, for lap 1 contact in turn 2, and lap 1 contact in turn 13 is a penalty for the 103, which is Albano Mora.
Yeah, so that's going to be applied after the race, post-race 5-second penalty. Of course, that won't affect his starting position for race 2, though. Currently in iRacing, we don't have the ability to add time at the end of the session at the end of a race as a penalty. We have to do that manually using spreadsheet magic after the fact. So so he, even though even if he might have a driver within 5 seconds behind him at the end of this race, he won't be put behind them for the start of race number 2.
And by the way, that's for that contact with Philip van den Hurk down at the chicane on lap 1. So that's what sent Van den Hurk around. So yeah, 5-second penalty for him, and yeah, that'll affect his post-race results. And of course, as we mentioned as well, drivers do get points on their license in this series, don't they? So that'll count against them for that.
Yeah, we've only had, like I mentioned previously, only 2 drivers have gotten themselves a license point related penalties so far in this one. Andrea Alberti and Dylan Scrivens got themselves back of the grid starts for next event, a good couple of races back. Just trying to see if anyone's close to getting themselves a penalty at the moment. Well, bad news for Gianni Vecchio. He's 1 point off of getting a back of the grid start at the moment. He has 5 points on his license. Dino Lombardi, well, he's not in this race, but he also has 5 points on his license as well. There's a couple further down the field that have 4 points. There's drivers not in this race that have 5 as well. So, well, a lot of these rookies, well, they have a clean slate to work with, but some of the drivers that have been in the majority of the races so far this season, well, they've got to be a bit more careful that they have those penalty points available for the last 2 races, I would have said.
Now, Daniel Muth is once again sporting his paint with his sponsorship positions up for sale. Your sponsor's logo could be appearing on that car. Do get in touch with him. I'm sure he'll be able to give you details if you are interested. I thought we'd done a good job of selling Daniel in the last round, but obviously not good enough. So, you know, if you are interested in supporting Daniel, there you go. Get in touch with him. He's there racing in VR, as you can see him there. He's also streaming to Twitch, it appears, as well. So that's good to see. But yeah, he's in VR, which not all of the drivers seem to get on with, do they? Some prefer to have the three monitors, whereas Daniel there, he's very happy in the world of virtual reality.
Yeah, of course, you know, still a vast majority of the pro drivers would prefer triple screens, of course. VR not quite as mature as some of the pro drivers would have liked. Meanwhile, battle a little bit further down, involving the number 71 car. Timo Winter just gets a little bit loose, and that's Sirotech able to get through and get that free position. Winter will even lose a position here to Igor Kost as well, so he'll have to file in behind him. But Winter just outbroke himself into Dunlop there, and carrying the speed through. Rear end wanted to come around in the middle of the corner, and you know how that is in these cars, Paul. It's very hard when that rear end steps out to get it back in line. Urano Esports down the inside, and that's the Monza all the way around. And that is not ideal there if you are Dylan Scrivens, because, well, you've already had your penalty point penalty already. I'm not sure what other way to describe it, but that was a bit close.
Now, is Imola squeezing Scrivens there, or has Scrivens come across, or have they both come across on each other? I'd love to see that from above personally, because I think that would give us a bit more of an idea. But yeah, Scrivens, it was going into that chicane, at the NGK chicane. It is an overtaking opportunity. It's a really slow chicane here, and right on cue. Thank you very much, Hugo, our lovely producer. So Imola stayed in the middle of the track. 6 of one, half dozen the other there, in my opinion.
Gotta be careful when you get so close in online racing. Plus, there was a little bit of a rear lockup there from Imola as well, so that certainly didn't help things. But yeah, we'll have to see. We do have live stewards here in this series, so they will be looking at that incident, and if they feel if one driver is at fault, then they will ascribe a penalty, or if both of them are at fault, then there'll be no further action, and if none of them are at fault, there'll also be no further action. Funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing that, isn't it? If you're both at fault, you're well, it's like, well, there you go, move on. Let's get on with it. Speaking of getting on with it now, further down in your field for Ira, up into 10th place after that misfortune for Imola. And now he's got his sights set on Denela, still not being able to get past Denela all of this time as, look at this for the lead.
Battle for the race lead on the brakes through the NGK chicane there. All will cross over each other through the chicane. Pinto still leads this, but Beneke, that's the first shot here to try and get himself back past. He has an entourage of teammates behind him as well. All 4 red line cars, all vying for all of those podium positions here at the end of race number 1. With 10 minutes to go, all of them have a decent gap back to Williams, so I guess they feel like they can fight as Beneke down the inside of Pinto in towards turn number 1 now. Bit of a lock up there from Beneke, but he secures the inside. Now he has to hang it around the outside, carry all of the momentum possible here to be able to get to the inside for turn number 4. Pinto doesn't really squeeze him out there. Respectful driving between the two of them. Now Beneke does not quite have the overlap to make that happen through 4, but that's the first little spark in this battle.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you leave each other space out there on track and don't just drive the other one off of the road. But anyway, this is the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland, where driver behaviour and track limits are adhered to, and each other give each other space. But going down to Dunlop, then Beneke's shown his card now. He's showing that he wants to get ahead, and he's shown one possible opportunity for him. I think Pinto has been pushing hard, and possibly Beneke's just been sat back looking after his tyres in that first half to 2/3 of a race. Now we're into the final third of the race. Business has picked up, and he's starting to really start to push Pinto.
Coming up to Vorsteiner now. Just a handful of minutes left in this race. Still time, though, for Maximilian Beneke to be able to make this move. But I think even if he makes it, he won't be able to get clear. That's how even these guys have been in terms of the pace. But now up the hill into the chicane. Beneke just showing the nose there, trying to scare Pinto off his line. But Pinto won't fall for such tricks. Now is the all-important run into that final corner. You have to get the launch out of here to be able to make a move happen in towards turn 1. Beneke trying to get the traction down, trying to move around in the traction zone a little bit there. Pinto feeling the need to go and try and break the slipstream towards the pit wall there. But Beneke simply not close enough into turn 1 this time around to make a move like he did last lap. He has to sit there once again and just watch and wait.
I bet Dom DeHaan is currently watching this and saying, all right, let's play it a bit civil, lads. Yeah. We've got a very good 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And we're on for a really good result. But Beneke and Pinto, they're fighting for a championship, and it's it's tooth and nail between the two of those. It's so incredibly tight and competitive. Meanwhile, Daniel moves up over the curb and around he goes. Oh dear. That's what happens when you get your line wrong through the NGK chicane.
You have to wait for the traffic to come through as well. You couldn't risk an unsafe rejoin penalty, and the penalty points associated with that. On the left-hand side, you have that leading train. A little bit further back, you have a slight battle that we've been sort of keeping an eye on for the moment. They're heading their way through Dunlop at the moment. This is Scrivens versus Volkovits versus Denela. This is the battle for P8, 9, and 10, respectively. I did see Laubish have a problem a bit ahead of them. He lost the position to Williams. So it seems like he's now going to be dropping back into this battle.
Yeah, Williams and Laubish were fighting away, but now he's dropped back, and Scrivens, he's got his teammate in front of him. So the two Urano drivers moving forward. I will say, good recovery drive from Scrivens up into 7th place. I mean, yeah, he's had that one incident with Simon Amosa, which we've not heard anything about as of yet. Of course, the stewards still have plenty of time to make any decision if they feel that a decision is needed as through that final corner they go. So yeah, Albus just having issues on that last lap, and just looking at his lap time as he crosses the line, it is down 2 minutes 2, so he had an issue out there.
Yeah, it did seem to be the case. You think I spot what it was, but certainly it's brought him back into this battle. He does have the benefit of having his Urano Esports teammate behind him, though, so I doubt Scrivens will be too aggressive with him, and as a result, I hope there's going to be no animosity between the two teammates. We can't be having teammate drama at this point in the season. We've got enough of it between Pinto and Beneke, although that is more of a drama on track rather than outside of the track, I would have hoped.
Never say never, Connery. Yeah, this is sort of just died down that little bit. There you see it in the bottom corner, but that lead battle, Pinto, I just feel that Pinto is holding up Beneke right now. I think Max, he did look after his tyres and is really pushing on now, but time's running out. We've only got 5 minutes remaining of this race, so you're only looking at about, what, maybe 2.5 laps remaining here, maybe 3.5 laps, depending how the time falls.
There's a scrap behind them as well between their two other teammates, Dambeats and Vecchio, who are getting a little aggressive with each other on the way into the final sector there, through turn 10 and 11, now through Ad Van Bogen, on the way up the hill towards NGK, and, well, Beneke just staying in line, as is probably the best plan for now. Coming into the NGK chicane, you're only really looking at that as a last-ditch move on the final lap there. It's got a very low percentage chance of both cars coming out of that one alive. Let's just say that. But out of the final corner now, Maximilian Beneke still not as close as he was just those couple of laps ago. He's going to catch up a little bit in the slipstream here into the braking zone of turn 1, but I think Pinto has been able to manage the gap after that moment of fighting, and is just giving himself a tiny bit of breathing room. It doesn't look like much, especially on this rear view camera, but it's enough that Beneke's kept at bay for now.
Well, we saw the championship live standings. Oh, Pinto with a bit of a slide there, locking up the rears. That's given Beneke the sniff of something here. He's wanting to pounce while he can. Can Beneke do something? No, he can't. But we saw on the live standings on screen just a moment ago that Pinto is going to be extending his championship at the moment to 13 points. Of course, last time out, they both got the same positions in the two races, and therefore they didn't actually gain or lose any positions or points in that standings. Pinto going very defensive, too defensive.
He's overcooked it. He was forced to the defense through Dunlop, and now Maximilian Benecke has got himself through up into the race lead. Turning this race on its head with 3 minutes to go, but we're not done here because Pinto's got the run back off the top of the hill. Now on the brakes in towards turn number 10, trying to find his way around the outside. Benecke overcooked the corner a little bit there. Forces Pinto to slow down as he exited the corner, and now through Vorsteiner down the hill towards Ad Van Bogen. Benecke is able to hold on, but Pinto is rattling his cage a little bit here, trying to get himself, get a reaction maybe out of Benecke, especially showing the nose like that into the NGK, as Benecke will leave the door open, but Pinto's not able to stick his foot in.
And look at how that's brought third and fourth place into this battle. And if they're not careful, they'll also bring David Williams into this battle. Has been out on his own, really, the last few laps. So this is tremendous stuff. The first four covered by less than a second across the line. That is absolutely tremendous. And the thing is, we've still got another, what, 2 laps of this race remaining.
We do. 2 minutes as it all closes up into turn number 1 there between the 4 teammates. It's Benecke, Pinto, Dambeats, Vecchio in that order. Vecchio actually has the fastest lap so far in this race, would you believe it? I think maybe the pressure is telling for those drivers in the race lead, and of course Vecchio has had the benefit of getting the slipstream off of all 3 of them. But as they head out of turn 4 now, Pinto got himself a little bit of a slide that time around. Car didn't seem entirely comfortable getting the power down. Now in towards turn 5, you got to flick it in towards turn number 6 here. And well, is that a tiny bit of damage on the front of Pinto's car, front left?
It'll be the smallest. Don't forget, he absolutely clattered that chicane, the NGK chicane, and that will have affected that front splitter. So definitely Pinto with the slight, it won't be affecting him here though in this race. These cars are quite robust and therefore able to cope with that sort of with sort of hit without any serious effects to their performance. But right now, I just think Benecke's getting away slightly. Pinto's worked his tyres, and I think those rears are screaming enough now.
Yeah, I think so too. But looks like we'll have 1 lap to go coming across the line this time around. 35 seconds as we head our way up into the final chicane, as Pinto closes up on the brakes there. Of course, there's a natural effect there due to the braking zone, but that was a big close-up that Pinto was able to manage, looking to the inside just to put Benecke off his game through the final turn. That's going to ruin Pinto's run through the exit of the corner, though, as we'll have 15 seconds remaining as they cross the line. This is the start of the final lap here of race number 1. Benecke clear on the way down in towards turn number 1. Pinto's not close enough to make a lunge. He can close up on the brakes as much as he wants, but he needs to try and get alongside now through this first sector. But I don't see any route where he's able to do that unless he just sends it into 3. He looks like he's going to do that. He's going to have a big look, but again, too far back.
He called it. He's too far back, and he's not able to get close enough on corner exits. And that's where it's telling. That's where it's telling me that he's worked his rear tyres a bit too hard. I mean, we saw how he was sliding through the corners of the arena section at times. So yeah, he's just worked those rears to scream enough. Of course, what this does do is it allows Max Benecke in the championship standings to just close forward a little bit closer. So that's going to be intriguing to see how this all pans out. This is fantastic though, because well, we've got one more race to go here in this one yet. So these two, they're just starting off. What they'll finish a little bit later.
Laubish having a problem a little bit further back. I think he's in a fight with Scrivens. That's between the 2 Urano Esports teammates. But look how close the battle for the race lead is now. Pinto being able to gain back a little bit of time, but he just needs that little bit more, doesn't he? Especially in the traction zones here as they coast down the hill up towards the final couple of corners of race number 1. And Pinto a good handful of car lengths behind Beneke here, trying to close the gap on the brakes into the chicane. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Team Redline, but it looks like Beneke is the top of the pile here in race number 1. As long as he's tidy through this final corner, Maximilian Beneke closes the gap to Pinto in the championship. He wins race 1 here at the Nürburgring. Dambeats, 3rd place. Great in terms of his battle for 3rd in the championship with David Williams. Vecchio getting himself a respectable 4th place finish. Dylan Scrivens, 6th place, ahead of his teammate of Nicholas Laubisch there. That was a situation that we had at the very end away from our cameras. But, oh, that was a little intense there towards the end, Paul.
Yeah, that was really good and thoroughly enjoyable. And yeah, Max Beneke certainly deserved that win. He looked after his tyres early on in the race, and that final 10 minutes really just came alive. And there's a reason why he's a king of the ring here, and that's because he's just so consistent and good around here.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Here are the unofficial race results from race number 1. Of course, post-race penalties will have to be applied to those that the stewards deem worthy of those penalties. But here are the unofficial results. Maximilian Beneke, P1, ahead of Diogo Pinto there. So he closes the championship gap from well, it's now 3 points between Maximilian Beneke and Diogo Pinto. It's a 5-point difference between P1 and P2 in this championship. Christopher Dambeats in P3 with Gianni Vecchio in P4. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4 for Porsche 24 driven by Redline. They were so much faster than everyone else out there today. David Williams inside the top 5 though. Another great top 5 finish for David Williams, but not quite enough to be able to gain some points over Christopher Dambeats in the battle for 3rd in the championship. Dylan Scrivens in 6th place with Nicholas Laubisch in 7th. Adam Volkovic in P8 with Nicholas Denela in P number 9. Ricardo Ferreira rounds out the top 10 in race 1. Then having a look further down the field, Gal Valero in P11 with Eike Weinberg in P12. Great stuff from the driver new to the series. P13 goes to Lucas Lang with Patrick Shilikowski in P14. Lucas Lippert 15th, Amosa after that instance in the final 3rd of the race, I would say, puts him back into 16th place. Albano Mora in 17th with Philip van der Herk in P18 with Daniel Muth in 19th. Martin Sirotek rounds out the top 20. Then the final cars on the finishing results here. No outright retirements today here in race number 1. That's pretty good going. So Pedro Regueira, P21, Timo Winter, P22, Mats Vangler in P23, and Igor Kos in P24. The entire field within 46 seconds of each other. So that's great to see everyone finishing on the lead lap. No one having to abandon the race early there, Paul.
Yeah, great to see. Always good to see everyone finishing who started the race, and certainly we saw some tremendous racing. And really, the racing all went wrong straight away for the 222 of Lucas Lippert, who at the start was behind Dylan Scrivens. Dylan Scrivens had an awful start out there. He just didn't get away, and you'll see it in just a second right now. The rest of the field gets a good run, but look at that, just full of wheel spin for Scrivens, and Lippert trying to avoid, heads straight into the wall. There was a little bit of contact further down as well, but here's another look at it from above. You see Scrivens and straight into the wall. Very little that Lippert could do about that one, really. But yeah, it was not the best of starts for him, and then we see even more action further down, and this was the 69 driver of Max Vangler. He was found at fault for contact in turn number 2 here at the start, and look at that, he went and sent it around the outside, and then he's there, and well, I'll just send it into the side of the 73, and that's why he ended up with a penalty, even though he fell down the field.
Yeah, of course, but the thing is, those penalties will only be in effect after both races are done here, so that means if you get a penalty, post-race time penalty here in race 1, it won't affect your grid position for race number 2, so you're still starting where you come across the line in the race. So that's something to keep in mind here as we head into race 2 in a good handful of minutes' time. continuing on with these highlights, though, I think that the main sort of featuring elements of the majority of this race were these little scraps here in the mid-pack between Scrivens, between Laubish, Ferreira, Amosa, all those drivers involved in that. That was a really close run thing between all of those, and, well, they were pretty close in qualifying as well, so it's understandable that they were also close during the race.
Absolutely, and it gave us tremendous excitement in the first half of the race when the leaders were just happy to stay in a line of cars. Scrivens, the exciting driver, because he was having to try and make that recovery drive after getting such a bad start to the race, and this was him making a move on Nicholas Denelot. And, well, even more moves further down as well. The 285 locking up, getting into the side. And Igor Kos, well, he did not have fun out there in that first race. And I think that damage is what caused him to finish all the way towards the rear of the race there. But
race 2 is a new race, of course. So despite all those situations, Kos has a chance to do the last to first challenge, at least, have a good attempt at trying to get as far up the field as he can. Of course, incredibly unlikely he'll be able to get to first, but stranger things have happened in racing. But we do see fantastic racing here. There's the contact between Scrivens and Amosa later on in the race, just getting a little bit too close for comfort on the way into the NGK chicane, and, well, Amosa obviously came off the worst there, not helped by the fact that he had a bit of rear locking. But then, inside the final 10 minutes, all of a sudden, we had the big scrap that we were waiting for between Maximilian Benecke and Diogo Pinto. Pinto leading the vast majority of this race, of course, trying to extend that championship gap, but Benecke, he was just waiting patiently. He saved his tires, I think, towards the end there. That's a conjecture that you had as well, Paul. And he was able to go on the offense here late on in the race where Pinto was just struggling for rear traction.
Yeah, and you look at that, he didn't desperately try and make a move. He put himself in a position to make moves, and Pinto had to go defensive. And then it was through the arena section, Pinto was... the back end of his car just got out from him. I mean, this was a little bit early. This was about 10 minutes before the end of the race where these moves were being made. And this is tremendous action. You can see the respect between the two drivers. They've been at it all season of these two. And yet, still, some of the cleanest racing that you'll see. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And at this point, Pinto was able to stay ahead, but then a few laps later, Pinto had a slide through mid-corner of turn number 3, and that gave Benecke that perfect opportunity to take the lead.
So there's, and, of course, we saw the number 53 there, the driver Daniel Muth, who still is looking for sponsors, as you can see on his car.
You're not helping your case there, Daniel.
Yeah, although
it got screen time.
Yeah, we got a big zoomed in shot on that as well. Yeah, but yeah, trouble's a little bit further down the field for a couple of other drivers. But going back to that race at the very front, this is the point where Benecke was continuing to turn up the heat there. There's the overcommitment on the inside from Diogo Pinto that allowed Benecke to slip his way through. Perfectly executed move there for Benecke. He forced Pinto to go defensive, forced him to take a line he doesn't usually take into the Dunlop hairpin. You don't really practice, at least if you're a regular driver, you don't really practice the sort of inside line breaking into there. So you can understand why Pinto then washed out in the middle of the corner and Benecke was able to slip in underneath.
I usually practice that line, but it's through no ability of mine. It's through my lack of holding a consistent line. But yeah, that was Benecke taking advantage of Pinto having that moment through turn 3. And you can see how having a moment through turn 3 can then affect you all the way down to the bottom of the track. And Max Benecke, I mean, he just cool, calm and collected, kept it under control, kept it right on the tail of Pinto early on, kept that pressure on to keep making Pinto use those tyres. And look at that. That was a bit sort of desperation from Pinto trying to get past Benecke towards the end, and it just wasn't happening. By the way, we have had a penalty handed out post-race. for the car number 103 for an unsafe rejoin. And that was Albano Mora. So that's the second post-race penalty that Mora has got here. So, yeah, he's been affected with a total of 8 seconds of penalties from race number 1. That'll affect his result, but as you commented earlier, Connery, doesn't affect his starting position.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works out for him at the very end here. Once we get all this penalty sorted and all we get everything totaled up, but we are just 1 minute away from getting ourselves our grid set for that second race, and well, it'll be the exact results from race number 1. So it'll be Maximilian Benecke pole position, Diogo Pinto second place, Dan Beats, and then Vecchio on that row number 2. So you know, kind of basically it is the front 4. The front, I would say, well, front 6 are absolutely identical in terms of grid to race number 1. So, you know, do you think there's going to be any shuffling here this time around? Because there certainly wasn't last time, apart from the little moment between Pinto and Benecke.
I mean, to be honest, that there was that doesn't tell the tale of what happened in race number 1. So I think second race, Pinto wants to try and get one over Max again to be able to hold on and get that lead to back where we were at the start of 2 rounds ago. So it's definitely, he'll be hoping to get one over and finish, switch the positions for the second race over Max to at least hold on to the same lead as before.
So the gap between Pinto and Benecke stands at 3 points heading into this race. Diogo Pinto ahead at the moment, but that can all change. Another result like that for Maximilian Benecke will promote him up into the championship lead, no matter what happens to Diogo Pinto. So there's the starting grid, exactly the same as the race results from race number 1. We got about 30 seconds to get all of this done. As you can see, the names cycle their way through the field. He's got Ricardo Ferrara starting in P10 with Valero 11th and Weinberg in 12th as one of the more impressive rookies over the course of today. But yeah, lots of drivers maybe a little bit further back to the pack. Igor Kos in particular, Sirotec looking to work their way through in this race number 2. So drivers just getting themselves ready now. Is a pretty hectic start for race number 1, but what does race number 2 hold here at the Nürburgring for round number 6 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland? Cleaner start this time, no one slow off the starting grid, but let's have a look then down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. It will be Benecke leading from Pinto from Dan Beats, but Vecchio side by side with his teammate as there's a spinner in the back there as the cars have to scatter to try to avoid that one. Didn't quite catch who that was. It was Scrivens. It was Ferreira as well in the Arnage car.
I think Scrivens was having a little bit of a connection problem as well at that point, and ends up going around. This is one man who needs to make some moves forward in this early going, David Williams.
Oh, race lead as well as Pinto looks around the outside of Benecke. He almost gets crowded out into the grass as they head their way through turn 6 now. Pinto aggressive from the get-go here, looking to try and repeat the early portions of race number 1. Of course, he doesn't want to repeat the late portions though. But either way, Pinto wants to make sure that he maintains the championship lead here at the end of race 2. Right now, though, he's not. Yeah,
look at that queue of cars heading uphill through the Schumacher S. And, well, Benecke, if I'm Pinto, I'm going to sit behind. I know you naturally want to get in front of the car that's ahead of you, but I want to sit behind. I want to do to Max what Max did to myself in race number 1 and just look after your tyres. Keep them in check. Keep the pressure on Benecke as well so that he uses up his tyres in this race. So that's what I would be thinking right now. But tremendous battling further down your field as Lippert still trying to work his way forward. And that was Adam Volkovic off, and even more off. That was Timo Winter and Albano Mora.
Yeah, as I think that car looking to come back on circuit kind of didn't help with the next incident there, due to Mora wanting to try to avoid that car potentially unsafe, or rather Winter wanting to potentially avoid that unsafe rejoin. Just brings him straight into the side of Mora, who was on his right-hand side. So a little bit of a chaotic end to the lap there, a little bit further back through the field. But you can see Sirotec and Van der Hoek going side by side on their way through the first sector. And, well, a little battle between the two. Of course, Van der Hoek, one of the, well, his first appearances here in this one, looking to try and get involved in the thick of things here as, well, he's a bit surrounded at the moment, all things considered, but as long as he can keep his cool, should be able to continue on.
Scrivens round the outside of Sirotec, gives him the inside. That's clumsy. That was very clumsy indeed. And, well, Van den Hoek, welcome to the series. Two races, two incidents.
Yeah, that was Bert Vangler with the absolute send down the inside of turn 6, got up over the curb, and, well, there's only one path he was going to take after that one, so I can expect a penalty to come out of that one. Martin Sirotec continuing on for the moment here. He's in 16th place here at the moment, is Sirotec. So he started 20th, so he's already gained 4 positions on where he started here. And a little bit of fighting further ahead between Lang and Lippert, I believe it was, further down the road. So that's the situation back in the mid-pack, but the race lead to hold things very close. There's Bert Vangler's, well, error.
Yeah, he got it all over the curb and bounced over the curb into the side of him. You know, he was a bit out of control there going into turn number 6. Oh, now you weren't alongside there, and I'm afraid that's rather silly there from Patrick Shilakovsky.
Yeah, so Shilakovsky going for a door that was never really going to be open on the way in towards the NGK chicane there. Tags Timo Winter around. So it seems like the newcomers to the series are getting themselves in all sorts of problems here in race number 2. We can forgive the inexperience perhaps a little bit there, but a bit of a chaotic first 5 minutes in the mid-pack and the back, but at the very front of the fields, well, it's the big old red line train once again, although it's more like a red line pairs of cars, and also Count David Williams sort of in that one as well. There's the big spin there from Scrivens. Oh, just collects Ferreira as well, nowhere to go.
Yeah, to be fair to Scrivens, that's just him losing it. And Ferreira, as you pointed out there, where do you go? He's taken that tight line, and the only place he could really go is right. And unfortunately, Scrivens, with that spin, it just caught him, sent him into the wall, and Ferreira is actually out of the race.
Yeah, he is. There's the look from up above of Adam Volkovic. Oh, that's the incident that kind of triggered everything through the NGK chicane at the end of the first lap. There is the Timo Winter and Mora incident going off into the grass there. There's also one that had to try and skip the chicane as well, seeing everything going on ahead of him. So, yeah, a bit of a weird situation into the final couple of corners on the end of that first lap, but we've got ourselves into a good rhythm, I would have thought, at this point. There's the 3-car train for what is P3 at the moment between Dan Beats, Vecchio, and David Williams. So Williams has been able to keep with the red line cars this time around. That wasn't the case in race 1.
Yeah, but the thing is, Williams was fighting with somebody else for 6th place, and in the last time, which was Nicholas Laubish. And it showed. He just dropped off the back of this leading train. He needs to be up there. He needs to be trying to get ahead of Christopher Dan Beats. Dan Beats, if I'm him right now, I'd be saying to Gianni Vecchio, look, please don't attack me. I'd rather you be that buffer between myself and David Williams for 3rd place in the championship.
Yeah, that would be the useful option. Well, useful if your name's Christopher Dan Beats, maybe not so much if you are Gianni Vecchio, but I know Gianni probably, well, would rather fight for the position than help out Christopher here, as at least that's what his car body language is telling me at the moment. He's following right up to the rear bumper of Dan Beats here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to make a little bit of a move at some point soon. Not this time into Dunlop, because that's not really the premium overtaking choice here. Although Beneke decided to buck that trend at the end of race number 1. But for Vecchio, it's all about getting the run through the S's here. Doesn't quite get a good run. Dan Beats was a little bit cleaner through the apexes there. I have noticed, though, that both Pinto and Vecchio prefer to cut the right-hand apex of the Schumacher S so much more than what Beneke and Dan Beats have doing, and it's been upsetting their car on some occasions as well.
And that's the risk that you run there by cutting that much and going over the curb so aggressively. You can upset the car how it runs through the corner, and we keep on mentioning it in the series. It's a rear-engined car. If you upset the car and the back starts going, it acts like a pendulum, and before you know it, you're facing the wrong way. So you've really got to be careful. Now, of course, these drivers in this series, they're all some of the best sim racers in Europe, and they have got so much experience in this car that they will feel confident right there. Vecchio, do you know what? I'm still feeling that Gianni's looking to make some moves forward here.
Yeah, this is what I meant by, I get the feeling he's not just going to sit behind Dan Beats here and be the buffer that he needs back to Williams. All the signs point towards Gianni wanting to try and make his way past at some point here. It's just a matter of where, really, because he hasn't had the most obvious overtaking opportunities just yet. Here's the onboard with Martin Ciracek then, as he's involved in a fight for P15 with Pedro Regueira ahead of him. So there's the view of Ciracek and his triple screen setup there. Of course, favored by most of the pro drivers. Of course, you do see a handful of them in VR, but it seems like the triple screens are still the way to go for the moment. But if there is a good VR headset that gives that's able to do everything that triple screens can and more, while also not making the driver nauseous, then maybe we might see more pros actually take to the VR headset instead of the triple screens.
You could well see that, absolutely. Anything that gives one of these drivers a competitive advantage, they will take it. That is just as simple as that. And right now, certainly looking good. Ciracek in 16th, so he's been working his way forward in all of this race. Scrivens has just moved ahead of Weinberg, so Ike Weinberg then moving down in position to 13th, and Scrivens again having to make a recovery drive here. It just seems to be that for every good race that he has about 4 or 5 bad races. It's that consistency that's the problem, isn't it? It's he's got the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely has the pace, and well, the 26th looking to have the pace at the moment, as Ike Weinberg looking to try and get involved. Meanwhile, we jump ahead though, because Valero, Amosa, Laubish all involved in the same piece of real estate here. Amosa on the inside, and Laubish here for the moment, or rather it's Laubish trying to go around the outside. It's that way around in terms of the fight, but Laubish will have to sit behind, fight another day through turn 4. You can follow very closely though, and Amosa will be asking him for a little bit more space than that.
Well, they all get through though, that's the main thing, but Amosa trying to move forward. Valero currently up 4 positions in this race, so really going well out there. Simon Amosa up 8 positions. He's the best of the drivers moving forward in all of this, is Simon. So really, really good start. Of course, took advantage of Dylan Scrivens' spin in lap 1 at turn 1, but yeah, certainly Amosa showing some good pace and some good race pace to move forward in this field.
He is, and well, let's see how his progress is, because still a lot of time left in this one. There's the well with the 21. There's Volkovic, Igor Kos, and Abano Mora. So Igor Kos started at the very back of the field today. He's up into P18, so he's lost a position recently to that driver of Volkovic, but still from 24th, gaining a handful of positions, not too bad so far for the driver from FTR Esports. But as this race goes on, of course, the field will tend to spin itself out a little bit more, and the little mark that you set for yourself gets a little bit closer in terms of the position you want to be in. But for Kos at the moment, it's been a better race 2 than it was at race 1.
Yeah, certainly showing some good handling out there and an improvement on race 1. Then again, I don't think it could be much worse really for him from race 1. We've got battling with Reguera and Siratek. So Martin Siratek still battling away, wanting to move forward into 15th, and he's going to take that position, but Reguera can hold it around the outside here.
Here comes Siratek then, still pinned on that inside, and Reguera not able to do anything about it. Will have to fall behind for turn number 4. Be careful with the off tracks there. Remember, if you do get 17 off tracks, or 17 instant points is the better way to describe it, then you will have to serve a drive-through penalty here in this series. So that's something to be very careful of. Maybe not so much at this track, but others it is certainly very
David
important.
Williams.
Oh,
What's happened to David Williams out there? He's dropping down our timing screen. I think he's had an issue. I think he's had a technical issue.
Oh no.
I'll try and look into this. Yeah, he's had a technical issue.
Well, everyone, this is the nature of online racing sometimes, unfortunately. And yeah, it looks like David Williams not going to return to the land of the living. So looks like, well, from what was going to be another rather comfortable P number 5, if not more, for David Williams. And there is confirmation. Having those technical problems. So for the VRS kind of sim sports driver, that's really going to hurt him. That's really going to hurt him now in terms of points lost to Dambeat for that 3rd place situation in the championship. He's even losing a lot of points to Vecchio and indeed Scrivens as well. So yeah, that's going to hurt.
And Dylan Scrivens is not going to like this. A 5-second penalty for lap 1 for not holding his brakes. So when he spun around and the car went backwards into Ferreira, he wasn't holding his brakes, the stewards say. So that's a 5-second penalty. Also a 5-second penalty for car 69, which is Max Furtwängler, who was involved in one of those incidents that we saw in the opening of the race. But, well, he's out of the race anyway, so that's more about giving penalty points. Meanwhile, Simon Hermosa, nice move on Gianni Vecchio. Guy Valero, sorry.
Is that the second time in this event that Hermosa has just made a pretty crazy move that we've seen just a little late? But yeah, I mean, it was helped by the fact that Valero locked up the brake into turn 3 and therefore compromised his run into turn 4, but still great bit of driving for Hermosa to be able to go all the way around the outsides there. Not an easy thing to do at all, and now Laubish looking pretty aggressive on the back of Valero's Porsche here as well. Looking like a toy car with the flames going on the side there. It's a very 13-year-old's take on a racing car, but you know, I don't mind. It's a bit of variety.
Hey, well, it works for him. And it's easy for us to spot as well. Another penalty coming in, 5-second penalty for the 77, which is Patrick Chilakowski. So he's got himself a 5-second penalty for the contact down at the chicane on lap number 2.
He indeed does. So those penalties being handed out and those penalty points being dished out too. But of course, you know, for someone who's already, well, he coming into this race has 0 penalty points because you haven't competed in the race, in any race so far. Not too big of an issue, especially this late on in the season. But we're running on board with Laubish at the moment, and well, flashing of the lights is well, here comes Lucas Lippert in the 222, trying to get through on that number 55 car of Dylan Scrivens. Lippert looking to go the long way around, maybe causing Scrivens to commit a little bit too much, but no, Scrivens got the car stopped.
It was Scrivens actually making the move on Lippert there through the last corner. Again, it's that last corner. Scrivens seems to really enjoy making a lunge down the inside into that last corner and then keeping it side by side down the start and finish straight to give him the inside of turn number 1. So, yeah, Scrivens seems to have that dialed in, whereas nobody else seems to make that move. But he knows now that he's got a 5-second penalty. He needs to try and move through these cars and pull out a gap to be able to try and mitigate that 5-second penalty in the results.
Yeah, it was well. This exact situation was a big discussion in the F1 a little bit earlier, wasn't it? Well, if you haven't watched it, I won't say who that was involving, but yeah, we will. We have our exact same situation here today as well. But looking back for the fields, though, a little bit of fighting back here, just trying to identify the cars. That's Albano Mora and Igor Kos, I believe it is. Yeah, it is Igor Kos. That's looking to try and get through on Mora here. So he's 17 and 18 respectively in this little duel. And well, let's see what comes of this one, because Kos has been pretty aggressive trying to get his way back in the field and follows relatively close to the Porsche ahead of him through the Vorsteiner curve. But Mora is able to pull a gap here on the way into NGK.
Well, this is, again, intense battling further down. Oh, Scriven. That's not Scriven, sorry. That is Simon Amosa and Nicholas Laubish. So Laubish able to get ahead of Guile Valero in this battle. And now Simon Amosa is in a really strong 6th place, looking to try and break the slipstream here.
Yeah, and, well, not entirely successful at it, as Amosa is still leading this train for the moment, and well, a whole bunch of very, very quick drivers behind him trying to get through. But Laubish not able to find a way there just yet. Valero also kind of in a bit, kind of on the outside looking in. There's a bit of a door-to-door scrap going on behind these guys, though, between Lucas Lang and Dylan Scrivens, as Scrivens looks to try and grab that P9 away from Lucas Lang, and he does it down the inside right there. Lang does have to move across to try and make sure Lippert doesn't get any ideas.
I do have good news, everybody, because David Williams is back out on track. He's a lap down, but he is back out there on track. So he's just desperate to get whatever points he can get from this race.
You can't just say you have good news in a car context, because everyone will think about Top Gear basically there, Paul. But yeah, you're absolutely right though.
More Futurama, but anyway.
I mean, yeah, that's also valid. But yeah, there he is on the right-hand side. David Williams, of course, well towards the back of the field. Of course, you do get points at every single position here. So this is damage limitation for David Williams, hoping that maybe someone has problems a little bit later on and they retire from the race while he's still lapping, a lap behind everyone, so he'll be able to get those positions. That's the objective there for Williams.
And that's what you have to do here. You have to do that to be able to get as many points in the championship as possible. And Simon Amosa, well, he's not giving this one up without a fight, is he? Because Nicholas Laubish and Simon Amosa absolutely together, to quote our colleague, side by side in towards T number 1. And it's Laubish who's just going to be staying ahead for the time being.
Oh yeah, got pretty close, didn't it? It says we will welcome onto the Porsche Twitch. Of course, we're streaming in multiple places here today on Racesport TV, on Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, YouTube, and of course on the Porsche Twitch. And it seems like Mr. Matt Malone, one of our Porsche All-Stars, has given us a little bit of a boost in terms of the viewership. Hello, everyone. But yeah, we're kind of winding down into the final moments here of race number 2 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland for 2021. This is race number round number 6 at the Nürburgring. Race number 12, if you're counting races. But for the moment, it seems to be the main thing, the main feature of this event is this battle for P6 going on at the moment between Amosa, Laubish, Valero, Scrivens. We've also got the ever-looming threat of the battle for the race lead as well.
Yeah, now Pinto, he's been sat about half a second to 3/4 of a second behind pretty much for the entirety of this race. So he's sat there with Beneca. Now they have actually moved ahead and got clear of Dambita Vecchio, so they can start thinking about making some moves and pushing some buttons and getting forward. Gal Valero here, he's got a prime seat to look at this battle between Amosa and Laubish into the NGK chicane once again. And Valero, you've got two schools of thought here. You either sit back, wait for those two to have an instant and gain 2 places, or go aggressive and try and disrupt both of them at the same time.
I certainly know which one I would go for, but then again, I don't have the skill to execute it. So maybe being aggressive, maybe not the right option here if you can't execute it. But there's the battle for 6th place on the bottom right-hand screen. You can see everyone involved in that one. The top 3 trying to gap Dylan Scrivens here, as he's the one very much on the outside looking into this battle. But Mosa has been looking here and there on that Urano Esports car ahead of him. Hasn't been able to capitalize on any open doors for the moment, though. So it's been a bit of a tough time for Amosa, but certainly not out of this battle by any means. So he's still got that half a second gap between the race leaders, though.
And I think that Laubich has actually used up his rear tyres. I think he's had happen what happened to Pinto in race number 1, and he was just sliding through the exit of turn 1 was Laubich. He's got a good gap between himself and Amosa, so not be under pressure immediately, but you know, he's got to start worrying, especially if he locks up like that and runs so wide through Dunlop, and Amosa's just not quite close enough to take advantage of that.
Oh, that was almost the moment there. Laubich has to be very, very careful. Kind of did almost something very similar to what Pinto did at the end of race 1, which gave the race win away to Maximilian Benecke, just washing up in the middle of turn 7, and that wasn't an ideal turn 10 either. So Amosa now can really try to turn up the heat. He's going to be sitting inside the slipstream through at Van Bogen. Might be able to get the run up in towards the NGK chicane. It's a very risky overtaking move up into there. That's why he's backed off of it and has decided to again follow through in single file instead. But it seems like you're right here, Paul. The rear tyres of Laubich's car perhaps not at their peak performance is probably the nicest way to put it.
It's certainly, by the way, Pinto's got within 0.3 of a second now at the front, so business is picking up at the front of the field once again. And look at that, Amosa, he's not worried about trying to keep in the draft there. He feels confident that he will be able to make a move in this battle for 6th place.
And a little blip of a lockup there from Laubich down into the corner as well. It seems like he's struggling just that little bit more at the very front of this train, and he knows if he puts a foot wrong, then Amosa's certainly going to go for the move. Maybe even Valero trying to follow through in Amosa's tyre tracks as well. You quite rightfully mentioned, though, the race lead now within a handful of tenths of a second. So we're sort of seeing a repeat of race number 1 up there, except the drivers are swapped around, haven't we, Paul? As we see a problem, involving Igor Kos and Mora. Those guys were stuck together like glue throughout this race, but now, well, making contact isn't the idea.
And also stalling your engine, and when you're trying to get going again when there's cars bearing down on you, won't be comfortable. Lippert here. Oh, do you know what? It must feel like a series of what-ifs here for him today. That incident in race 1 where just getting away from the line, car not getting away in front of him, he tries to avoid them and goes into the wall, has just cost him all these 2 races. He's making a lovely move around the outside of Lang there. Oh, I say that, and there's a bit of trading paint there.
Bit of a shove on the way through Vorsteiner, and I think Lang will be flashing the lights there to say, that was a little bit naughty there, just trying to shove me out of the way with your door. But continuing on, by the way, race lead 2.5 tenths of a second, so Pinto's turning up the heat now. Pinto is within striking distance of Benecke. It's almost like deja vu, but this time it's Pinto on the offense in towards turn number 1 for the race lead and for the championship lead as well.
Connor, are you secretly writing a script for this series to give us these close races? This is fantastic between your 2 championship leaders right now. Pinto has a 3-point lead going into this race. If Benecke stays ahead and keeps in the place that he's in, then he will be the championship leader by 2 points coming out of this race. Pinto, he wants to win here and get ahead of Benecke so he can have the gap back to what it was when we started this round of the championship. This is tremendous, and this is 2 of the best drivers in Europe duking it out and giving us a tremendous show here.
It is incredible seeing these guys go wheel to wheel, and we mentioned during the break how respectful they are with it as well, but sometimes, well, sometimes those relationships can be tested. Even though these guys are part of the same team now, I think they'll still give it a good go in terms of the fight here, because the championship is worth so much more than team allegiances sometimes, especially when it's not a constructors or teams championship. But we've got a handful of minutes to go. Pinto pulling off the, well, the Uno reverse card, I would suppose, from race number 1. This time, he did exactly, he's trying to do exactly what Beneke did to him in race number 1, which was save tires for the duration of race 2, or vast majority of the race, and then go attacking inside the final 5 minutes. But can he execute it like Beneke did?
Well, we're going to get 2 laps anyway, that is for sure, because once again, the relentless pace of these drivers, my timing's saying we've got 1 lap. We haven't. We've got 2 laps here. So this is tremendous, and it shows just the level of pace that these two are able to hold throughout this race. And Beneke was just slightly faster, about 600ths of a second faster that last lap. So there's nothing between these two.
Absolutely nothing. You can see Pinto taking a bit of a wider arc into turn 3, and he's opened up the door to turn 4 with a look. Backs out of it low. He knew that door was always going to be swinging shut. The trajectory from Beneke was going to basically guarantee a collision if he committed.
That was never on, was that move, and he realised as soon as he went in towards turn 4, he's like, nope, I'm going to get on the anchors. And yeah, fortunately no contact between the two of them, but it's Pinto showing his intent here. He's saying to Max, look, I'm the faster driver here, let me by. If you don't let me by, I will force the move on you. And Pinto, he needs a good run here. He needs a good run through the Schumacher S. You can see both of them not really touching that curb on the left hand side, but use the curb on the right hander onto the brakes. This is tremendous. I love seeing these two battle it out. It's such a battle of the ages this is turning into in this championship.
Beneke has been able to extend the gap a little bit here as a result of that entire situation developing out of that near move through turn 4. So this is the exact gap that Beneke needs. Pinto has been characteristically a bit later on the brakes into the chicane. That's why he's able to close up so much time. He did a 1/10 of a second alone through that section of corners there. That's how good Pinto is when it comes to slowing the car down. Now sets himself up for a run through the final corner, across the line for the second to last time. Here we go then. Diogo Pinto versus Maximilian Beneke, not only for the race win here in race 2, but for the lead of the championship heading out of the Nürburgring and to the Red Bull Ring. Time is about to expire, and Pinto knows exactly what he needs to do. Through the arena section now, turn 2, swings it out very wide into turn 3, taking the off track to be able to do that. Pinto continuing to apply the pressure here, making himself big in the mirrors of the German.
It's running out there. Time's running out. The corners are running out for Pinto. He needs to get close enough to make a move and make it soon. His best opportunity really now is going to be either into turn 10 or into the NGK chicane.
Does he even dare to make a move into the NGK chicane though? That's the thing. That's such a risky move, and the last thing you want to have happen is to have contact with your teammate. Even worse, contact with the teammate that puts you down a couple of positions, if not out of the race. So that's the risk assessment that you need to do here inside of this final lap. But of course, most race drivers will throw that by the wayside and just go hell for leather for the race win. Let's see what the mindset of Diogo Pinto is then, as they're ticking down the corners, ticking down the time until the end of the race through Vorsteiner for the final time. This slipstream zone all the way through Ad Van Bogen up into the braking zone of the NGK for the final time. Pinto just a couple of car lengths back, but it's a couple of car lengths too much, I get the feeling. As late as he wants on the brakes into the chicane, looking to try and get a good exit, hoping and praying that Beneke makes a mistake. But Beneke just simply does not make mistakes here at the Nürburgring. He's a double race winner once again. Race number 2 is Beneke's, and he gets the championship lead here at the end of round 6. This could be one of those points in the championship, Paul, where we could say that well, the championship was potentially decided here, but as we see the battling further back as well, but the points are so close still at the very front of the field. So we have a championship on heading into the Red Bull Ring, and of course the final round.
Chilikovsky having a bit of fun through the final corner there, giving us a bit of a power slide. But yeah, this championship, it can be decided on results like that, and Max Benneker has pulled it out when it was needed. He's got to do it back to back now though, because yeah, he's got a double race win here, but it's only a 2-point lead in the championship. Red Bull Ring, that is going to be fast and frenetic out there. I can't wait. I'm glad it's only a week away.
I can't wait either, because Red Bull Ring really does promote some fantastic racing as well. And to have these guys caught in a draft block and trying to sort of strategize themselves around that whole slipstream, that would be fantastic. But that's about next week. We'll talk more about this week right now, and in the summary, as we'll see Maximilian Benneker there 3 3/4 of a second ahead of Diogo Pinto there, as 3 3/4 tenths of a second, I should say, ahead of Pinto, as Christopher Dam beats P3 once again with Gianni Vecchio in P4. It's the Porsche 24 driven by Redline 1 through 4. Again here in race 2. Exactly what happened in race number 1. Nicholas Denner, though, what a fantastic race number 2 he had, as a new appearance, well, relatively new appearance in this series, and he's got himself a P5 finish, which is fantastic stuff for the number 96 car. Nicholas Laubisch in P6. Sam Namosa in 7th, with Gal Valero in 8th, Dylan Scrivens in 9th, and Lucas Lippert in 10th. That was the sort of bottom end of the top 10 battle that we were also having looks at towards the end of the race there. Lucas Lang in P11 with Daniel Muth in P12. Martin Sirtek P13 with Adam Volkovic in P14. Patrick Silikowski in P15 with Pedro Gaira in P16. Philip van der Herk in 17th with Albano Mora in 18th. Koss and Weinberg round out 19th and 20th respectively. And then those are very final cars. Winter in 21st. Williams with a technical problem puts him 1 lap down. That's going to be crucial in terms of the fight for P3 in the championship coming into the Red Bull Ring. Mats Furtwängler in P23 and Ricardo Ferrara in P24 here today at the end of 16 laps of race number 2. So those are the unofficial results here from the Nürburgring. Of course, the post-race penalties yet to be applied there in those particular set of finishing results. But we don't have long to wait now, Paul, do we? Because we have the Red Bull Ring in exactly a week's time. Yeah, and if you think that was intense around the Nürburgring, Red Bull Ring, that's going to be another thing for sure. It's fast and frenetic around there, but today, unbelievable performance from Max Benneker. He played race number 1 absolutely spot on by just sitting behind, waiting for his opportunity, seeing that Pinto had just worked his rear tyres, made that move, made it stick. Absolutely fantastic. A race 2 to absorb the pressure from Pinto, not just at the start of the race, but then in those final few laps, and to hold on for the race win. That's crucial for his championship, as we say, puts him 2 points clear in the championship, and he'll be absolutely delighted with his performances here, I'm sure. Yeah, he needed a performance like that as well. Anything short of that would have been a failure in this race. So he knew exactly what he needed to do. You know, he knew he was pretty strong at the Nürburgring as well. So at least he had that advantage coming into this. But I don't think, well, I certainly didn't expect Pinto to be so close. I knew he was going to probably be P2, but being that close was absolute a sight to see, especially considering qualifying where Pinto was those handful of tenths of a second behind Benneker in that one. The race pace seemed to be a lot better for Pinto than qualifying. But again, like we're just fawning over this championship fight at the moment. It's 2 points. So two points is the difference right now between Maximilian Benneker and Diogo Pinto. You can see it right there. There is confirmation. 5:42 versus 5:40 with 2 rounds to go. It's tremendous, isn't it? And crucially, that 3rd place battle as well. Don't forget that, because Christopher Dan Beats, I think, has pretty much got one hand on that trophy because of the issues that David Williams had today, which drops him down to 5th. I mean, that's big for him.
He's not out of it yet. Nobody's out of it yet in terms of those sort of positions, but Dan Beats must be feeling very confident right now about third place. But it's tremendous that we're getting towards the final 2 rounds of the championship, and we've still only 2 points between the 2 championship leaders. I mean, we expect Imola set the tone, really, didn't it, for what we would expect in this championship, and it's proving to be that way.
It seems like we're getting a repeat of Imola pretty much every single race between these two. It's fantastic to see. We are able to speak to one of those drivers, though. I will bring the ever wonderful Diogo Pinto up into the commentary booth now. So as long as he gets all his audio sorted and is ready to speak to us, Diogo, new team and well, a double second place finish in this race. It was very, very close between yourself and your new teammate of Maximilian Benecke, but yeah, that was hard fought.
Yeah, it was not an easy race. I feel like I threw it away a little bit in the first race with my mistake, but things like this happened. The last few races I've not been making many mistakes, so it is what it is. On the second race, I think I was a little bit better on tires at the end, but Max defended really well, so not really a good chance for me to pass safely. So I did a few risky moves, but it's really hard to overtake you, but still not bad. 2 second places is decent points, so let's see next round.
Of course, this event does put Max ahead of you in points at the end of today by 2 points. Pretty close run thing in the championship. It seems like there's not all that much to separate you two, and of course, you know, the final track that you know about is the Red Bull Ring. Of course, we have that super secret, the final where the final round's going to be. But are you confident heading into the Red Bull Ring? Do you think you have the edge over Max there? You know, and also, what do you think the racing is going to be like there, especially considering the draft block?
Yeah, I don't think I'll have the edge over Max, but I think I'll be a little bit better than I was here. Especially, I was not able to do much practice, so let's see. But yeah, like you said, even if I'm faster, or if Max is fast, it's really hard to overtake. But sometimes it's the start, the first couple of laps, you'll have to create a gap and take what you have. So let's see. I think it'll be really close and really important 2 rounds at the Red Bull Ring, and we'll see. I think it can go both ways, so it'll be nice to watch.
So this is your first race as part of Porsche 24 driven by Redline. How was it? Because you know, sometimes things get a little bit more complicated when you're a part of a team versus when you're a privateer. Did that change the way you approach your fight with Benecke, or have you guys been sort of working together on an unofficial basis for a while now, so it hasn't really changed much?
But my approach didn't change. I think I was still aggressive, but within my limits. So all season we didn't have any crashes. But I see my approach won't change, and this was sorted for a while now. I didn't work with them, but it was sorted for a while. So it's my approach will remain like this. I think we've both been very clean against each other, aggressive but clean, and I think this is the way to go.
I hate to remind you about Imola race 1, but you know, where you got your race win taken away after a penalty, but but that was the only instance that we've seen between you two. But yeah, you know, since we're kind of getting over time here, is there anything you want to say before we let you go?
Nah, I think it's really nice to battle Max. He's really fast. I'm always on edge, so let's see. I think it'll be really entertaining to see who gets on top at the end, and especially next round will be really important for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will let you go here and enjoy the post-race debrief with your new teammates, and we'll see you, well, same time, same place next week for the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.
Well, that was Diogo Pinto, their new driver for Porsche 24, driven by Redline. And, well, you heard it from him, Paul. It hasn't changed his approach to this battle. He's going to fight for it just like if Max was in a completely different team. That's the best way to go here. I don't really like to see teammates not fighting each other for the sake of team cohesion. I know it's, you know, you have to keep that morale up, you have to keep that friendliness up, but it's a lot better for everyone when everything's so competitive.
I said before the start the first race, didn't I? He's not changing the thing. He's going to go for it. And that's exactly what's happening here. And we love to see that. It's absolutely tremendous. So, yeah, quick turnaround as well for these drivers. They've got to get themselves through the time attack and then get themselves into this penultimate round of the championship at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, which is a track that I love. I absolutely love racing around there. It's a challenge. It's not the easiest of tracks to overtake at. You know, turn 1, turn 3, they're your favorite overtaking maneuvers. Down into turn 4, you can make a move as well if you've got it sorted. That's about it, really, though. But it's a quick lap around there, so definitely I'm looking forward to that. Next week, of course, same place at the same time. And then that final round, we only get to find out 48 hours before, so the drivers can't just do practice ad nauseum, and they can just, they're going to test those drivers' ability.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So preparation very, very limited for that final round of the season. But we are one round away from that now. We have to get the Red Bull Ring out of the way. And, well, of course, we'll talk more about that once that broadcast rolls around. But, of course, if you do want to at least see if you can compete in this series. Of course, it's never a guarantee. You got to be quick enough in the iRacing time attacks. You can access that through the main UI of iRacing, the one that you download, not the member site, and go to time attacks, and then you will see, of course, the time attack for Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland. And well, if you set a good enough time and you're inside the top 32. Then you'll be able to get yourself a slot in next week's race. It's open to absolutely everyone, no matter if you're a complete rookie or if you're a World Championship driver. You can book yourself a slot for next week's race at the Red Bull Ring. And, well, we have had some rookies and that have, well, not rookie licensed drivers in iRacing, but some newcomers to the series actually do rather well. We saw Denela getting himself a P5 in race number 2 there. So just because you feel like you may be slow doesn't mean you're not going to do well.
Absolutely. And why not? Of course, there are certain other terms and conditions apply. But
yeah, you have to be over 18. You have to be from a certain number of countries. Yes, I know. But
details are on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly, you know, why not? Give it a go. Why not? You know, if you do qualify and you do end up getting the time good enough, get yourself against some of the best drivers in Europe and some of the best sim racers in Europe. And see where you stand with them and see what they do out there on track to maybe say, right, I need to work on this. You never know. Never say never.
Absolutely. But that's going to be all that we have time for here at the Nürburgring for round number 6 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Deutschland. We are 2 rounds away from crowning a champion. It's between 2 drivers, Maximilian Benecke and Diogo Pinto, separated by just 2 points, heading in towards the penultimate round at the Red Bull Ring. Same time, same place next week. You do not want to miss that, because the championship seems like it's only just got started. As we'll enjoy a little bit of a break, but not too long before we're live back on the air for the Red Bull Ring. I've been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by Paul Smith, and we'll see you guys next time.